What's up guys, it's BT here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the new Deathadder Mini from Razer. Now normally when we hear the name Deathadder, it is not synonymous with the word mini. When we think of a Deathadder, we think of a large, huge, humongous, thick even mouse that is for large-handed people. So it's nice that Razer with their recent releases are thinking of people with smaller hands. Over the last couple of years, the Deathadder has been one of the best-selling mice on the planet, so this Deathadder Mini has some big shoes to fill if you get my drift. Starting off with the build quality, the Deathadder V2 Mini is right in line with what we've been seeing from Razer over the last couple of months. Amazing lightweight gaming mice with no honeycomb design, featuring everything that we would want in an enthusiast mouse. There's no creaking anywhere to be seen on this mouse. It is a very solid mouse all the way around as far as build quality goes. It's got the Razer logo with the white outline. I kind of wish they went with the way they did it on the Viper Ultimate, where they had it blacked out, where you can, once you turn off the RGB, you're not gonna have the logo there. I think that just looked really slick when they did it that way, and I wish they would just keep that going. I mean, people liked it, so why not? Now this is an ergo mouse, which is what the Deathadder is famous for. The reason why they call it an ergo mouse is because it's supposed to be more comfortable, where you lay your entire hand on it and it fits to the natural curves of your hand. Keeping it in line with the design choices of the Deathadder V2, they have those deep ridges on the mouse 1 and 2 for ultimate comfort. This kind of forces your fingers into those grooves with not much wiggle room to place it on the outsides or the inner parts of the actual mouse buttons. So depending if you have a funky grip or not, you might have to conform to this new style of mouse 1 and 2 buttons. The side buttons, in my opinion, are perfect. They're the perfect size and they feel great, but more on that later when I drop the sound test. The scroll wheel is nice and rigid and it has some great tactility. There's a DPI button up top where you can change the DPI, or you can actually change this to another button if you so choose. Me personally, I actually like the DPI button up top now, because actually buying this to my voice chat in game, it just makes it a lot easier, and I do this so that I don't accidentally change my DPI mid-game. Now this one has 6 programmable buttons compared to the 8 on the Deathadder V2, because you're gonna have the 2 DPI buttons up top compared to the 1 on this one. The coating feels good on this mouse, but it is a little bit slippery if you have bigger hands, I found. But the good thing is now Razer is including their new grips with this mouse, and these grips are spectacular. It actually changed the entire mouse for me. Before, it was slipping out of my hand, I couldn't get a good grip on it, but after I put these grips on, it made it way more usable for me as a medium-handed user. Because to be honest, I was gonna write it off for us medium and large-handed users, but these kind of save the day. You can apply and retake them off and they're not gonna peel off, the edges don't peel. So these are really good quality grips. Now they are gonna have these available for the mice that they've released in the past, like the Viper Ultimate, the Viper Mini, and so on and so forth. I'll drop a link to those down below as well. So for those of you guys with slippery hands or sweaty hands, these are gonna be a godsend. I feel like this mouse sticks to my hand like glue now, especially if you're a fingertip grip user or a claw grip user. These are gonna come in clutch when it comes to controlling this mouse. Now you can tell Razer's listening to these reviews. They've got one big one in the back, they've got 2 in the front that are pretty big, and now instead of having the plastic around the sensor like they had on the Viper Mini, now they've actually put a PTFE feed in the middle as well. Now out of the box, brand new stock, they feel a little bit rough to the touch and not as smooth, but after you break them in a little bit, they will feel a little bit smoother. Now under the radar, they've actually changed their SpeedFlex cord as well. On the Razer Viper Mini, one of their latest mice, the cable was a little bit too tight and it was a little bit too stiff. Now they've come back, they made it a little bit looser. So they've loosened up the weave and they've made it a little bit thicker. There's more material, it feels like, on the paracord. So now you get that fluidity, right? You get the fluidity. I can use this thing without a mouse bungee just fine. And for those of you guys who don't know, this is a paracord type cord, and this is going to allow you to not even need a mouse bungee, and this is going to make it feel like this mouse is wireless. Now this is a huge upgrade in my opinion compared to the Razer Viper Mini, where I had an issue with the thinner, tighter cord that was a little bit stiff. So Razer's listening, guys. They're giving us what we want, they're listening to the feedback, and they're coming back, and you can only respect that. So kudos to Razer for actually listening and upgrading their cable. I tell you you guys, they're learning something every single mouse release, and they're making their mice better and better. And that is just a recipe for success. I don't know what they're doing over there, but they've got it going on. They know what they're doing when it comes to mice right now. Now the Deathadder is weighing in at 62 grams, which is 20 grams lighter than the V2 and about 43 grams lighter than the original Deathadder. So in terms of mice, we've come a very long way in terms of weight. Now before we move on to the grip styles and dimensions, let's drop a sound test for you guys right about now. Oh yeah. Now the side buttons have to be my favorite part of this mouse. These are on par with the Ultralight 2, which I feel like has the best side buttons. These might actually be better. These really take the cake. They're even, they don't feel different from one another. They're exactly the same, and I love them. So if you've been on the lookout for amazing side buttons, the Deathadder is the one to get. The mouse 1 and 2 have those optical switches and they feel great. They're gonna have the 0D bouncing because they're gonna have the laser shooting to the other side. There's not gonna be that metal on metal contact, which needs a little bit of debouncing. That's always been the benefit of the Razer mice. And you can tell they've been working on the clicks as well, as these sound clickier than any other mouse that they've released in the past. These are verging on perfect at the moment. So kudos, like I said, Razer has been listening to the feedback. They know what you guys want, they know what we want, and they've come back, and you can't tell me that sounds mushy at all. So the dimensions of this mouse are 114 by 56 by 38.5 millimeters. This is gonna be smaller than the Viper Mini and about the same size as the Ultralight 2. Now my hands are 19 by 8.5 centimeters, and this mouse is just way too small to palm grip. And because it has such a harsh hump here on the back side of the mouse, let's see if we can get a close up. This has a very harsh drop off here. So it goes up and then it has a very sharp decline there. So it lends itself to like palm grip. But since this part back here is so flat and it's so narrow, you see that? Palm gripping it just doesn't really feel comfortable. And I had a hard time getting a good grip on this mouse until I put the grips on, and then the front end really kind of made up for the lack of control back here. So I really recommend this mouse for like palm grip users first and foremost, and then I'd say fingertip grip next, and then claw grip last. If I was going for a fingertip or claw grip, I would probably pick the Viper Mini over this mouse. So then we're left with, who is this mouse for? I believe this mouse fits a niche, a specific niche of people. So this is gonna be for like palm grip users that are about 16 centimeters in length. So if you measure your hand this way, 16 millimeters or centimeters, sorry. I believe that this is gonna be the perfect mouse because you see this, like, let me get a close up again. My fingers hang off, right? So if I were to click these buttons down as a palm grip user, like, it's not gonna be optimal because I have so much length. See that? That's not optimal. You want your fingers to be there for the quickest actuation, right? So since my fingers are hanging off and this is geared towards palm, I'm gonna have an issue. So I really feel like it's geared towards those kind of people. Now I can play good with this mouse, but at the end of the day, I didn't feel like it was optimal for me personally. So if you're a large-handed person or a medium-handed person, I would just go with the Viper or the Deathadder V2 if you really like this shape. Now the grips do help. You can use fingertip grip. That's why I said that's probably the second best grip style with this mouse. But then at that point, I would probably still go with the Razer Viper. Viper. So this does have the same sensor as the Razer Viper Mini. It's going to have that higher lift off distance. So if you're a person that lifts off your mouse a lot, like you are repositioning your mouse and you kind of stay in one spot on your mouse pad, you might find an issue. But for me, I'm a person, I like to use my whole mouse pad and I'm all over that thing. Like I'm all over the place. I was able to go from a normal lift-off distance, like a 2mm lift-off distance, to this mouse with no issue. But some people are sensitive to that, so keep that in mind. It also has 8500 DPI as well. I noticed no spinouts. It performed perfectly in game, just like the Razer Viper did. Since this is a lighter weight mouse, the flick shots felt great in game. I was able to get used to this mouse as a medium-handed user, but like I said, like it just didn't feel optimal for me. But I could really see this mouse kicking some butt for those of you guys